No, 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 no. Wait.
Whoa, I like Jujutsu Kaisen. It's good. It's good. Jujutsu Kaisen is probably the best shonen on the market, and it's not even close. It goes beyond its contemporaries, not just in its animation and tactical depth, but in its characters and directing, and honestly, if we went over every way Jujutsu Kaisen stands above the rest, we'd be in for another 20-minute video. It's really good. What it isn't is perfect. While sections of it are near flawless, like the subjective peak of the series, the hidden inventory arc, there were a couple parts of the second season that made my critical analysis ears perk up. Take, for example, the first fight we see in Shibuya. It's between Yuji, a pretty straightforward physical fighter, and the Locust Curse, a pretty straightforward physical fighter. This guy's obviously small fry, he's literally the embodiment of an insect pest, and his one personality trait is being very stupid. He does some expositing, and Yuji puts him through a wall. Yuji then stands around instead of going for the item he just said he was going for.
How to prioritize objectives.
Some more banter, fine. This shot is held for a weirdly long time. Still going. Still going. Then we get the narrator. Narration is pretty much always a worse choice than having an actual character give us information, and the second season does lean on it regularly. Hidden inventory, I should note, always gives us information from one of the actual characters. Oh my god, she's still talking? Okay, let's fast forward. Alright, flare bites from Locust, followed by an ineffective punch. Locust unveils his wings, which will make no mobility difference, you can just ignore that. Another dodged punch, we lose track of the fight for a sec, and then Locust kicks through the wall, chasing Itadori, who emerged after him from somewhere. More dodged punches, they burst through the wall a second time. Is that the same animation? Okay. Yuji reveals he was running away this whole time out of caution. Not optimal time use from a meta perspective, but then we get to the actual head-to-head, which is them doing the standard shonen fist cloud at each other while the camera pans. Still more fists. Still going. I'm gonna need to fast forward this. Oh, a dodge. Okay, so Yuji is now the only one doing a fist cloud. Locust defeated. Oh, but a twist! He has some sort of tail attack, the narrator explains at us, but Yuji dodges it and kills him without any trouble. So, yeah, what was that? We took 8 minutes on this, a third of the episode. Another third was spent beforehand setting it up. We have somewhere between 0 and 1 tactical wrinkles over the entire runtime. The climax of the fight is more than half a minute straight of the laziest choreography move in the book. 9 or more cuts in a row of this, and then we get what could generously be described as the only actually interesting move of the entire 8 minutes, which is over immediately and has no impact on the fight. This could have just been a 5th normal punch. So, if we really do want to treat Jujutsu Kaisen with the big boy gloves, we have to ask, is this fight worth the resources it takes up? And I pretty clearly think the answer is no. It tells us nothing interesting, it has nothing going on a tactical, strategic, personal, or political level. It has less than nothing going on tactically. There's supposed to be an objective, but it's forgotten immediately. Oh, but YouTuber, every shonen anime has filler fights, and this one's only 8 minutes! Remember, this isn't just wasting your time. Even cutting corners, producing animation like this takes a level of investment and effort that boggles the mind. Sourceless estimates from AI-generated slop articles tell us the per-episode budget of Season 2 was $150,000, and given that this was a fairly animated fight scene, I don't think we're out of line ballparking the cost of this fight at $50,000. Think of how many man-hours that represents. Actually, you don't have to. It's almost 3 years worth of effort for a MAPPA animator. Do you want to know why MAPPA animators were having public mental breakdowns on Twitter? Why they were Roblox posting and vowing never to work for MAPPA again? Well, I feel pretty confident saying that one factor is that we spent this much effort on Locust Man. And this is a departure for Jujutsu Kaisen, which in the past did shockingly well, giving even its filler fights a surprising amount of depth. Even its most straightforward tournament side fights were usually at least one tactical wrinkle with a couple layers of politics or interpersonal stuff. More importantly, there are other meaningless fights that the show cuts out entirely. Back in Hidden Inventory, they did this multiple times for comedic effect, but it also saves a lot of man-hours and helps put the audience in the mind of Gojo. Why should we care about these jobbers? They're not even worth our attention. And with all that banked screen time, the animators were able to give a slice-of-life Sakuga because that's what the narrative demanded. I can't help but think it would be pretty effective to open this arc just like Hidden Inventory did, a section emphasizing the tension and creeping horror of an abandoned space. Just think what that would be like in a space like a subway that's supposed to be occupied heavily. Okay, but one bad fight does not a seasonal flaw make. This is easily forgotten if these issues don't crop up again in more important, even more resource-intensive fights. Let's skip ahead a bit past some fights which are truly excellent and as such not really worth mentioning. No comment, just go watch them, A+. There were even some I remembered having mixed feelings about that I loved without reservation on the rewatch. I want to pause here to talk about what makes a good fight, because this is a good fight that also makes for good background footage, and because it has this walk cycle.
Jesus Christ!
この剣から手を引く。
話して時間潰したかっただけだし。
God bless you, Mappa animators. The key to a great fight is... Well, okay, there are actually a lot of ways to write a great fight. If anyone tells you they have the one and only path toward fight scene greatness, they're lying to either you or themselves. But a really important element that I see shows failing at all the time is a sense of lethality. If you want me on the edge of my seat, I need to feel like our heroes are always one false step away from death. We shouldn't see a lot of move repetition. In a fight where one mistake is fatal, it doesn't make sense to throw out a move that just failed. There is some wiggle room here for asymmetrical fights. It's fine for this guy to throw out the same move over and over again because he's not really a thinking combatant, and this is a minor fight that's more of a puzzle than anything. In active fights between thinking individuals, which, spoiler alert, is most of this season, moves are subject to inflation, and the more someone throws out the same thing expecting a different result, the less I'm going to respect that move, and also that individual. A high lethality fight is also necessarily pretty short. You can and probably should intersperse explosive action with internal monologues explaining tactics, but a fight that goes on for half an hour really doesn't sell the idea that all of these attacks are lethal threats. If we're still here 45 minutes from now and she's just Bushido spiriting through her injuries, I will conclude that you were lying to me about the stakes earlier and are probably still lying now. I'm gonna be real with you, unless it's the climax of a season, I don't want to see a fight going for more than one episode, and you should be aiming to get it under 10 minutes. If you want an archetypal example of a great fight, go watch Hidden Inventory. It's consistently fantastic at this. But let's see how well this framework applies to the first headliner fight of the season. Dagon the Ocean Curse versus all these guys. We have a lot of engaging elements right from the get-go. The presence of lots of water makes for an interesting amirite. Dagon is talking about the largely under-discussed ideology of the curses, and I'm extremely sympathetic to this old man's diatribe against 60 FPS upscaling and default motion smoothing settings.
60 FPS でフレーム保管だろ。我々にも個人で楽しむ分には誰の迷惑にもならんからそれは我々には名前があるのだ。不思議だとは。
These are, however, all abandoned immediately. After this first flood, not one person will have their movement meaningfully impacted by water in this entire half-hour fight with an ocean deity. Dagon never again brings up the dehumanization of curses, and the sorcerers never offer a response. Not only does the old-timer stop talking about motion smoothing, but the limitations of his moveset aren't really brought up again. Strawman, bring up the graph. Cumulative effect of all this, zero change. We have spent 8 minutes here, and exactly one interesting thing has happened, us finding out about Old Man's powers. As a matter of fact, characters comment in text about how few impactful interactions are going on. Not a single one of the basic attacks thrown has any effect, yet they never change their tactics. Hell, the main combatants here are 1, guy that freezes you, 2, guy who ignores toughness, and 3, spirit who can regenerate limbs. This should not be a fight defined by a lack of damage. After 6 minutes of this, Dagon gets his domain up, and we essentially reset the fight under actually interesting conditions. His domain lets him summon fish that don't exist until they bite you, which is a cool idea. I wonder how the sorcerers will deal with this one, gang. They don't. He uses it once each, and then for some reason stops doing that in favor of his generic fish blast. I'm genuinely confused by this. I don't think that these are the domain fish that were just mentioned. Nanamine talks about them, and they pretty clearly exist before they make contact. These are just really fast fish, I guess. They eat these guys uncontested for a full minute with no apparent impact. If you're trying to sell that these fish are a lethal threat, you are failing.
'Tis but a scratch.
A scratch? Your arm's off.
Then we get to the actually great part of the fight. Absolute treat to watch. No notes on this section of Toji beating this guy up. It's just fantastic. It's not tactically interesting, but at a certain point there's enough spectacle and it honestly just doesn't matter. Okay, Strawman, bring up the chart again. Not that bad, right? Fair amount of move diversity. Sure, we're leaning on basic attacks and the fish blast a bit, but filler moves aren't so bad as long as they're broken up. Well, check out what happens when we divide it into sections. Essentially, all the move diversity is packed into the last 5 minutes when Toji shows up. The preceding sections are more or less just doing the same moves over and over again to zero effect. On a narrative level, this guy's job is to die to hype up Toji. Yes, that necessarily means we're going to waste some time hyping him up, but an entire episode? Interesting powers are flagrantly wasted here, like the original Schrodinger's fish idea, or old man's powers. They're a cool concept, but they never come up again or actually impact the fight. Their whole advantage is that they're too fast to react to, but he dies when, whoops, guess this guy's just faster. This is textbook bad power writing. Not to mention the tactical holes here. The battle shifts and they retreat, and Dagon just lets them leave? Maki is a slower combatant. She should not be able to turn her back on this fight and just walk away unassisted. One of the things I love about Jujutsu Kaisen's great fights is that they make sense. You can go back and understand every play, see exactly why a misunderstanding of Toji's motivations led to a fatal mistake back in the original Gojo fight. That's egregiously lacking here. And this isn't the only headliner matchup that has these problems. This is where I'm gonna lose a lot of people. Everyone's darling fight, Mahito versus Yuji, has some slightly different but definitely adjacent problems. I'll admit, I was a little confused when I started in on this during my rewatch. I remembered it being kind of a stagnant blur, but these moves are cool. We're getting dynamic and creative uses of both of Mahito's notable powers. He's doing the amorphous shapeshifter thing way better than most shows, and that's engaging, even if Yuji is just trying his usual punch real good attack. Yet 10 minutes of ineffectual fighting later, it had all become kind of a blur. These moves in a vacuum are cool, but put together, it just becomes kind of an amorphous fist blob. Neither of these guys can do any damage. Yuji gets stabbed in the face to no effect, and what's he gonna do to Mahito? Punch the meat puddle really hard? Mahito says at one point, ooh, I better be careful, if I mess up my timing I'll die, and it's like, will you?
Ore, ナナミンの分までちゃんと苦しむよ。
Neither of these guys has a real win condition, and while some moves get by on raw animation alone, a lot of it just jumbles together. We're an hour in, this move has never worked, why are you still trying it? We're in egregious violation of both of our guiding principles for high-impact fights here. This would be fine if these were just some hobbyists making a cool fight for love of the game, but this guy doesn't seem like he's loving the game. Actual people got actual exploited during this production. Let me lay out really clearly what I'm saying here. Part of adapting a work is figuring out what your production limitations are and judging what you can do justice to within them. And that's something Jujutsu Kaisen is actually pretty bad at. That has two major results. The first is people getting real life exploited by managers trying to force way more into their schedule and budget than is feasible. If you don't care about the people making your art, well, maybe work on that. But that overambition also hurts the final product itself. Oh, YouTuber, are you saying that Jujutsu Kaisen's fights are bad? That Jujutsu Kaisen is bad at fights? No, of course not. Jujutsu Kaisen's fights are fucking amazing. Even back in Grasshopper fight, there were still moments where I was like, yo, look at that! I'm not making this video as a secret takedown of Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm making it because there's value in critically thinking about even stuff we like, especially stuff we like. Hell, Season 2 was so resource intensive, it seems to be mugging other shows from Studio Mappa for spare frames. I point this out because it is, in my opinion, the only thing that really held Jujutsu Kaisen back. Look at what Season 2 achieves when it's got the space it needs. Fish fight here is directly followed by the best episode of the entire arc. Just look at the animation on display here. Genuinely creative uses of Toji's strength beyond run at you and punch you really hard. It also ends with an interaction not only tactically interesting, but that retroactively reinforces Toji's character depth completely separate from the development happening on a dialogue plot level. And then a different extremely interesting power used to set up the third fight. And I mean, what is there to say about the Sukuna versus Jogo fight? It's the best in the entire season. I'm sorry, it's not even close. Look at how they show Jogo getting thrown around by windows breaking, or just zooming out and showing you the lights turning off in every floor he's shoved through. The perspective shifts to one of my favorite characters who we haven't even had time to touch on. The entire fight is just full of tiny touches, like the automated thermometer spiking up as Jogo heats up, dresses spontaneously bursting into flame as the fight goes past. And I mean, all of this.
聞け呪術ども。なんでか知らねえが特級同士がやり合ってる。奥の番イン。なんだ、さっさと逃げるぞ。ならん。
Anyone want to guess what the most replayed song on the soundtrack is? Yeah, that's what I thought. What the fuck is Resolve doing in second? Come on, guys. I can already hear you. YouTuber, did you just call this the best episode of the arc? Surely you meant the episode before the best episode of the arc. And unfortunately, I do not, because the third fight here between Sukuna and Maharaga is unfortunately where we're going to illustrate the impact of all those wasted shots I was harping on about earlier. This should be the best fight of the season. They break out the theme song at the end of it as the camera pans over the wasteland that used to be a major urban center. The ambition on display during this fight is a frankly brazen display of professional dominance, and they almost pull it off. The framework is all there, the tactical depth, the cutaways to unrelated parties, the plot relevance down the line. They've pulled out their best voice actor. And the animation of the fight itself is, well, come on, you've got eyes.
Kai. Yaはりどちらもあの法人が開店した後にだ。フルのこととあの法人は完全な循環と調和を意味する。推し量るにこの式神の能力は福間水氏。
メガホンの人いたでしょ。
おフル。ハチはその条件を満たしているが、適用が解ではなく、その管理ではない。
It's really good. But unfortunately, like the season as a whole, I have to undercut my praise a bit. The real characteristic trait of this fight is how notably unfinished it seems. I'm taken out of it regularly by cut corners, bits that are all the more obtrusive because of how great everything else is.
Stuck, you hear me? That boy got that virus. Boy, hell no, boy. That boy is stuck in time.
Why are they holding so long on this looping plane animation? Oh, no, that's why. You can feel that this fight needed more time. I mean, don't just take my word for it. Here's a now deleted tweet from one of its animators. And that's a real shame. It doesn't make Jujutsu Kaisen mid or whatever. It's going blow for blow with the best action animation ever made, and those shows get their teeth kicked in when it comes to all the stuff around that action. I love Jujutsu Kaisen. Easy 10 out of 10. Look, there it is in my top anime of all time. It's one of the few shows giving Frieren a run for her money in the best anime of all time leaderboards. What we have now is amazing, and what comes next could set a new high watermark for the entire industry. And hey, I don't know about you, but I cannot wait to see it. And now, for my ultimate move. I recall all the blood to my body. Septic Shock! Well, welcome to my Death Flag beach scene. Figured we'd try and fit it in before the Crunchyroll Awards Committee pinpoints my location. Been a while, huh? Sorry about that. I didn't get hit by a bus or find fulfilling purpose in life or anything like that. I was just out of town. And then stranded out of town, and then almost double stranded out of town. I also went to my first anime convention, which was a lot of fun and helped bring my interest in cosplay to full fruition. I've chosen a very reasonable first project, so I may document how that's going in the future. As far as videos go, the plan was to make a shorter follow-up video with the 3 pages of notes I have gushing about the great parts of Jujutsu Kaisen that weren't really related to this topic. But having now finished my last 20-minute video for realsies this time, guys, I'm kind of sick of editing Jujutsu Kaisen footage, so I'm gonna shelve that for a video down the line. Instead, well, there are a couple ideas at the forefront that are gonna get made in some order next, but I imagine I'll take a bit of a break to make smaller stuff about individual shows. Spice and Wolf seems to be going well, so as a impartial observer, I might make a recommendation video for that, or some smaller shows that failed or succeeded in interesting ways last season. Maybe document the cosplay nightmare, who knows? I'm a wild card. Maybe you guys will get the fucking Batman video next. I play by my own rules. Anyway, oh shit, is that...